Greetings everyone, this is Jed Shlackman. In this video today I'll be speaking about the topic of insecurity and narcissism and aggression and how that can kind of play out in people's interactions on social media, in essence leading to antisocial types of behaviors or interactions. So let's go into this topic a little bit, observing how each of us are actually reacting or responding to some challenging interactions that may arise as we have discussions in different social media forums. One thing to consider is that on social media we are interacting potentially with a wide variety of people, some of whom may be people that have similar views or beliefs or culture to ourselves, while we may also interact with people who are much different in their views or values or beliefs, and that could lead obviously to some challenging interactions, to debates, to arguments, etc. And if we're not really mindful or conscious of ourselves, of our own insecurities, of our own emotional baggage, etc., it's easy to get triggered and start to react in a way that can be somehow aggressive or antisocial. And I don't think anyone's really immune to some level of getting triggered. So we all have our feelings, our emotions, our areas of insecurity. So if the right button is pushed, in a manner of speaking, just about anyone could lapse into some form of rude or hostile behavior in their online dialogue. One thing to consider is that as we go through life, we go through different stages of social development. And if you think about young children, they tend to be very reactive and emotional. Their feelings might get hurt very easily, and when their feelings are hurt, they'll often lash out in some way. Sometimes it'll be more internalized, other times more externalized. So someone might start to cry if their feelings get hurt. That's common in children. So rather than saying something or reacting hostilely to another person, they might kind of withdraw. They might feel shamed, they might feel depressed, they might cry, whereas another person might react in an aggressive type of way. So rather than kind of processing it internally when their feelings are hurt, they lash back out at the other person, seeking in a sense of revenge, trying to inflict on the other person what they felt themselves. So they'll try to hurt that other person's feelings, perhaps saying something to demean or to belittle, to make that other person feel bad, so to speak. And it's not just children or adolescents that do this. Adults can be triggered into those types of patterns or behaviors also. And if you look at social media dialogues or debates or arguments, you may see people, or even yourself, reacting in those types of ways. So if you see name calling, if you see someone accusing another person of being evil or being stupid, whatever terms of derision might be applied, then you're looking at that type of behavior. Now, many people actually think that they're justified in acting that way, but if we pause and consider what is that accomplishing, is that going to lead to any kind of constructive exchange of information or ideas, any progress at building a better understanding on any particular subject? It's kind of unlikely. If someone is pointing a finger at you and telling you they see you as evil or they see you as stupid or foolish, are you really going to feel motivated to listen to hear what they have to say? Perhaps not, right? So it's not something that usually leads to any constructive dialogue or to anyone gaining a better understanding of the issues that are being discussed. We can consider what might be a more constructive way to address disagreements, to address areas of difference that we have with other people. We could actually just listen to hear what other people have to say without feeling a need to degrade or demonize them or attack them personally. If we're able to stay more calm and more present, then we're able to present more rational statements. We can use reason, we could present things in a way that could be understood. So we can make a logical argument about a particular topic, and we can respond to what another person is actually sharing or presenting, rather than trying to impose our argument or our point of view without considering how we can address or respond to the other person's point of view. So often we're just trying to argue something without even considering where the other person is coming from as they come into this discussion. So if you're trying to present something based on your point of view or your reference point, that might not be relatable at all to the other person's reference point. You might need to consider what their actual reference point is in terms of how you're going to present your information or your point of view. So this is a challenge when we have debates about things. If you're debating, you're often trying to prove that you are right, that the other person is wrong, and that tends to feed into kind of a narcissistic or arrogant attitude where we become kind of aggressive in trying to prove that we're right, that someone else is wrong, rather than actually trying to listen and understand what their argument or point of view is about the topic, where we might actually learn something, and both people in that discussion might actually gain a greater awareness or understanding about that particular topic. But if both of them are just trying to prove that they're right, then they might miss that opportunity to learn something new, to perhaps expand their perspective. They might add on to their way of seeing things. They may not necessarily completely change their viewpoint, but there might be some more nuance or complexity that's understood about the topic by being able to hear and understand someone else, to be able to actually listen, to be present in that communication, rather than just trying to impose your viewpoint or prove that you're right. And in online discussions, it's actually easier for people to start becoming aggressive because they're not physically in contact with that other person. So you might call someone a name, you might belittle them, and you have kind of this safe distance where if that person is very reactive, they're not going to come there and physically attack you through your computer or phone screen. So it gives people kind of a greater sense of freedom to act aggressively or antisocially, since there may not be any immediate harm done to them as a retaliation, but it's still not a constructive way to interact. So if we want to be more pro-social, we really do want to work on maintaining a calmness and presence within ourselves, where we're not so insecure that we actually need to prove that we're right. It's actually okay to be mistaken sometimes, to have your viewpoint exposed as having some flaw in it, some lack of knowledge or awareness about something. So it takes humility to acknowledge when we're mistaken, or we don't have all the facts, or we don't have a complete understanding about something. So if we're more secure within ourselves, then when we're able to have that humility, we're less inclined to be self-righteous, to need to put someone else down to prove that we're somehow smarter or more righteous than anyone else. It's okay to recognize that someone else might have a valuable idea or more knowledge about something than yourself. So with this discussion, I hope that we can each reflect upon ourselves and how we react to different social interactions, whether it's in social media, in some online discussion, or just people we come into contact every day with in our family, in our workplace, in our friend groups or other social circles. We could all refine our skills for communicating, for being mindful, for being compassionate. One thing about social interactions is that if we're not secure within ourselves, we do often tend to become a little more aggressive or impulsive in how we react to other people, and we can all kind of display a narcissistic streak at times. Even people who appear to be very passive or very empathic and compassionate can have a point where they get pushed to unleash their own anger, their own frustration, their own sense of being victimized, of being shamed or embarrassed, where they want to get back at someone who's in some way representing the attacker or the abuser. So we each can reflect on those aspects of ourself that are vulnerable to having these types of reactions. Social media is a place where we have an opportunity to have positive or constructive dialogue, where we can interact with many people that we might not otherwise have been able to interact with or hear about or hear from. So that's a positive aspect, while at the same time we can also easily fall into those patterns of being impulsive, of being aggressive, of trying to be self-righteous, of being inconsiderate of other people, of attacking them as a person, rather than just trying to logically explain where we disagree with them, where we think they're wrong, where our values might be different from theirs. So it's a medium with the opportunity to learn from one another, to develop more compassion, more consideration, greater understanding. Yet at the same time, if you observe a lot of what's occurring on social media, you'll see a lot of the antisocial types of behaviors or communications where people lapse into those very insecure ways of communicating, where they're belittling someone, or they're using really nasty kind of language, rude language, to talk about another person who they don't even know, someone they've never even met. They may just have one conversation about a topic with that person, and they're ready to form this grand judgment about who that person is, using language to try to define that person based on very limited interaction with them, practically no knowledge of who that person is, what they've done in their life, etc. So it's helpful to pause, to take a breath, to kind of pull back into yourself and ask, what is your purpose or intention with the language that you're using, with the statements you're making, with the way you are presenting your ideas in that online forum. I hope that this commentary has given you some things to reflect on, and that it can help us all improve our communication, our ability to have constructive dialogue, and to learn more from one another as we interact and discuss a variety of topics. For those that are interested in personal growth and holistic wellness and spiritual development, I invite you to watch other videos I've done on these topics. And for healing services I offer and additional information and resources, you can visit my webpage, which is phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. For now, I wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.